Yeah.
Isn't that ultimately the elephant in the room? Is Berube going to be here next year or not? Like, isn't that where it really has to start?
Dude,
Are
when
you
you have expectations and you're supposed to do certain things and none of it turns out that way and you go down a different path, there's going to be. I told you yesterday, Brian, all that we're left with, and you didn't come up with your list, you got lazy.
Mhm.
All that we're left with is question marks. And you told me you were going to give me the 5 biggest questions in Leafland
Well,
yesterday.
I'll give you the number one is
Who's
Craig
running the
Berube
operation?
is Craig Berube going to be the coach next year? And that, and I guess you could go higher than that. Is Brad Treliving going to be the GM? But if he's not, then why is he running your trade deadline? If you've made that determination, you're going to move in a different direction. That doesn't really seem to jive. But usually the GM sticks around longer. Clearly, usually the GM, has the ear of the president, CEO, the owner more so than the coach. But if you're going to move up Berube, what kind of coach are you looking for? What kind of style? Because there's been reports that would indicate maybe they haven't given him enough to work with. Okay, how much more do you think you're going to get? Like, what do you think they're going to be able to do this offseason? They're not getting McDavid, McKinnon, and McCarr. So what do you think is going to change? Couple different pieces. You could definitely turn over your roster, you can make a couple of trades, but it's not going to be drastically different. And I would suggest they brought in a lot of guys with size, veteran presence that were kind of supposed to be Berube guys. Nick Waugh, Dakota Joshua, that was a Berube guy. Hasn't worked. So that's at the forefront for me. And once you determine that and the style of play you're going to try in the future, then maybe you can start molding your team. But if you're going to stick with Berube and keep building a Berube hockey club, I don't know where else you take it and what else you can expect out of your best players.
As I mentioned, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but just so many questions.
Yeah.
Like about what's going to be going forward. Who's going to be the GM, the coach, the style, different players. What's Austin Matthew think? Like there's
Right.
a lot of things that need to be answered here after this season is over or beforehand, Brian.
Yes. Well, and maybe our next guest can supply us with a few of those answers. Here he is, our good friend, our TSN hockey analyst. There's Craig Button. Craig, we'll throw that one at you right off the bat. I mean, you've been watching this team. Stylistically, it hasn't worked. It hasn't been a good year, and it's getting worse, and it's going to be a dreadful finish. If the determination is, okay, they have to change like the style of which they play, that's directed at the coach. Do you think that's doable? Is it possible? How much can you change in one offseason to make it feel and look like a different hockey club next year?
Well, let me ask you guys this question: how many what you would call real key difference makers do they have on their team? If you can give me more than five, I'm interested in hearing who they are. And if
No,
you think you're going to
no.
be a contender with five guys, you're kidding yourself. This is not a contending team. Full stop. They're not going to be a contending team next year. They're not going to be a contending team in 2 years. They got to do what Brendan Shanahan did in 2014. It's got to be a remake. Simple as that. And if they don't address it, it's going to look like the 80s. That's what it's going to look like.
Yeah, that's scary, but I don't I think you're I think you're right, Craig. I mean, that's what's terrifying is that they if they dig themselves further into the hole, it's where are they going? How much worse can it get? But how does that jive with? You mentioned you can't get more than five guys who you can pinpoint as impact players. Let's say they have five. What does that mean for those five players? Like Brendan Shanahan shipped out the 4 or 5 impact players they effectively had. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Does that have to happen here in order to commit to the Shannon Plan 2.0?
Well, I think you have to open up your mind to it, Brian. You have to say, hey, listen, are you going to be a contender next year? Are you going to be a contender in 2 years' time? Well, I say that 2 years because that's how many years Austin Matthews has left on his contract. Like, there's nobody in the league that's not going to be interested, or I shouldn't say, very few teams would not be interested in Austin Matthews. He's elite. He's a superstar. So you got to open up your mind to hearing what other teams may be ready to offer you. And understand, too, there's teams that are going to fall short, teams that are trying to move forward. You also have marketing things. You have people, ownership that's saying, hey, we got to sell tickets. Like, we got to give some hope. You got William Nylander in that category. Matthew Nyes is a really good, solid player, and there's no question about it. But as we move along there, we name 34, we name 88. Okay, we'll give Matthew Nyes. Who else? Like, who
No,
else?
you're right.
Hmm.
Well, Craig, we were talking with this Maple Leafs team and basically the whole season. All it's done to this point has left you with questions about a lot of different
Mhm.
things. What would you say is the biggest question moving forward, or the top two that need to be answered?
Well, I think the number one thing has to be, and I was listening to you guys as you came in, and I'll just say this: it's who's going to be running your team. Now, you can't go make a change today, Brian, with your manager. Well, maybe you can, but you expect the manager to do what's right for the team. Full stop. That's his job, and it shouldn't change here. And I can't imagine that ownership would come to him, or Keith Pelly would come to him and say, "Hey, listen, you know what? You're done here." And but you better do the right things at the trade deadline. You're telling him, you know the team. Here's where we're at. Here's the direction we're at. The New York Islanders changed their manager after the trade deadline last year, and they did it with Lou Lamoriello. So there's nothing wrong unless you were going to change your manager long before now. Then Brad Treliving has to go and operate. He has to go. He has to go and operate with the direction of saying, "Hey, we're going to move this player. We're going to move that player, and do it with the understanding that that's his objective." So that to me, Jeff, is the number one thing. Who's going to be here, and then number two is like, okay, what direction do you want to go into? How much do you want to open this up? You're going to have to talk to Austin Matthews. You're going to have to talk to William Nylander. They have no move clauses, and Morgan Riley. You're going to have to talk to these guys and understand. Okay, how do you feel about this? Be very honest with them. Here's where we're headed, and I think those are the two things that have to happen. Number one, who's going to be leading the organization, and then you can figure out who the coach will be. You don't do the coach before you figure out who's leading the organization. Number two, how deep you want to go, being honest with everybody, and then proceeding forward in terms of trying to, if it's not going to be Brad Treliving, finding somebody that's going to come in and be that guy. Those are the questions, and then everything will go from there.